Here we are on Wyman Lake, just about a mile above the little town of Bingham, Maine, on the famous Kennebec River. We're all loaded now with all of our equipment, ready to take off for the famous Allagash country. We had excellent weather, wonderful flying weather. This country, we're going to fly over millions upon millions of acres of tall timber and hundreds of lakes, good fishing lakes. One reason why the lakes are good, most of them you have to fly to get into. You just don't have roads through this country. You have to fly. We circle around. If we see a camp, we'll sit down because we know we can get a canoe. The fact is, some of these lakes we set into, we didn't even know what the name was. Boy, I love this, coming into a lake like that. It's like an old mallard duck setting in front of a blind. This guide, I didn't even know his name. He said, Gad, I'll take you up here where it's got some salmon. Now, in these lakes, you've got brook trout, salmon, a little bit of everything. And all I could get was salmon, and they run about 10 to 14 inches. And I didn't keep any of them. They're small fish. But on a lake like this, in this country, you could be there just about an hour and a half or 2 hours before sundown, along that shore, with a fly rod and a wet fly or even a dry fly. You can have the time of your life, and these trout will run from a pound to 3 pounds. Well, most people that fish for salmon in this country do a lot of trolling with big streamer flies. I released all the fish, just turned them loose. I was using a small streamer on this. There's a fly rod and a small streamer. But I didn't pick up a brook trout in this lake at all. When we dropped into these lakes, we only spent about an hour in each one, picked up a few fish, and moved on because I was getting a big kick in ad-libbing these lakes. Some of the finest fishing in the United States is in the state of Maine. And the state does a wonderful job of stocking. We didn't look for any trophy trout. That's one thing we didn't look for. So I said, okay, let's get back and find another lake. Boy, this is beautiful country, believe me. Well, we take off, and we're going to fly back, sit down on Wyman Lake, and then take off for the upper part of the river. We got plenty of power in that plane, believe me, and I flew it from the right side for a while. I've got about 40 hours on the float plane, but I've never been checked out on it, and I wish I had now, because it's wonderful, where you can sit down anywhere. And he said to me, he said, Gad, take the wheel, come in on this landing, and I did. So I picked up my canoe, went up to the head of Wyman Lake, above the dam. Now you got landlocked salmon in here, in Squirttail, and that's what I want to try to catch now is landlocked salmon. Now these are some of the salmon flies that I had with me. That's the gray ghost, as they call it, one of my favorite flies. And there are hundreds of patterns in this salmon fly, but I like that gray ghost the best. I worked along this pulpwood for a while. I didn't raise anything, moved on down to about this point here, and about the third cast I made when he got into this point, stripping the line fast, I had a thrill, boy. He socked her. He hit it hard. If you've never caught a landlocked salmon, you're in for big thrills. They are lots of fun, and they got plenty of pep, and they do a lot of jumping. Boy, if you sitting up there in that seat where I was and doing what I am, your old heart would really be pounding. I'm using a 9-foot tapered leader down to about 4 pounds on this fish. It's all you need when you got a good rod with a good spring tip action. This fish here would run somewhere around 4.5 pounds. I'm only guessing at it, but that's about the size. Boy, it's a nice fish, believe me. That's the gray ghost that I caught him on. Now, a lot of people that has a small motor in a canoe like this and fish a streamer fly like that and troll with the fly rod. No sinker, just troll with the fly rod and the leader and the lure. That's all you need. These salmon, early in the spring, will come to the surface and hit these streamer flies. I felt so good over that, and I started out again, and I swear I didn't fish but a few seconds until right into another one. Boy, when you got fishing like that, it's well worth the trip. One nice thing about this upper Kennebec River, it's good, clean water. I understand the Kennebec is the only river left in the United States where they still float pulpwood. And we hope to get rid of that very soon. The trouble with pulpwood, you get a lot of bark on the bottom of the river, which does not help fishing at all. Get that net untangled. Hey, boy. He went right up my net, right up towards my arm. Don't you ever fool yourself. These landlocks have got a lot of pep, believe me. I think they got a lot more pep than a rainbow trout. Well, I finally got him. Boy, there's a wonderful fish. And you know what I'm going to do with those 2 fish? I very seldom keep them, but I'm taking these home and I'm going to have myself a good fish fry, because those fish are delicious. That fly went all the way through his lower lip. Had to push it back through. I had him well hooked. Boy, that's a whopper. So you get up in that country, folks, and really try it, and I know you'll enjoy it. Here I am headed for Big Bird Island. This island has been very good to me. I've put many a fish around this island. And I pull up on this shore, and I want to warn you folks that never fish salt water. Where you have tides, when you get out of a boat, you'd better take the anchor with you, because you may come back and not have a boat. This little light here is off of the tip of the sand spit, the opening of the Cape Cod Canal as you enter it. This old lighthouse has been there for many, many years. if you'll see that lettering up high, is the mark of the high water in 1938 hurricane. Believe me, boy, there was plenty of water there, and did worlds of damage. The gulls are nesting on this island all over it, but when you walk around, they take off. And I found this nest, and believe it or not, a chick was just coming out of the shell. And the mother was circulating around that island and just talking to me and raising the dickens. Yeah, I took that hat off. And brother, the sun has given me a real sunburn, and it's very touchy. The reason I'm there, I'm killing a little time now because the tide is low, and I'm waiting for the change of the tide, which should be in a very short time. There's the lures that I'm going to use. Now, those are top water plugs. That one that I'm going to use, called a Gibbs plug. It's a very famous plug, and I've caught worlds and worlds of stripers on it. It's a surface plug, and it'll weigh a little over about 3/4 of an ounce. Now, I tie my line right direct to the plug. I do not use a steel leader, wire leader of any kind, or a snap. You get better action out of the plug if you have a line tied direct to it. Clippers clip off what surface line you don't want it hanging out there. I saw some stripers breaking down towards the ledge, and I took off for this as fast as I could go, and I stopped where they were. And the first cast I made, and I started to fish it back, and by golly, I hit a fish. He hit me hard. There he is. Oh boy, when they do that, it's a thrill. Now I'm using a bait casting rod about 6 foot long and a regular bait casting reel. Of course, I'm one of the old timers, they say, that where bait casting used to years ago, that's all you had. And you're just as well off if you like spinning. It doesn't make any difference. You can do the same thing with spinning tackle as you can bait casting tackle. I'm using 12-pound squidding line on the reel. This is a pretty nice fish. I noticed a few baits around here called spurling, and the stripers were feeding on them. And when they get a school, boy, they start to come to the surface. It's a lot of fun to watch. But these fish are still there. The water under me is about, I would say, not over 8 foot deep at the most, and very rocky and heavy stuff. And that's a good spot for stripers. When you find a spot like that, you can nearly always find stripers. These fish fight good, fight awfully good, especially with light tackle. And today, about everybody that fishes for stripers will use light tackle. One thing about fishing stripers, you may get one 3 pounds, 2 pounds, or may get one 10, maybe 20 or 30 pounds. So it's one of those thrills that you get in fishing. It's good fish. So I take this gaff, made a pass at it, missed him the first time. I got him. That fish will run about close to 10 pounds. Now you watch this and see what happens. I'm going to warn you. Don't take any chances like I did, and I don't know why I did it. I'll reach out to grab that plug, see, to take it out. And boy, he flopped. Now that's a good way to get a hook buried in your hand. Either throw a tunker and as a little billy and kill him and stun him, then take it out, or take a pair of pliers so you can get a hold of that hook. Otherwise, you'll be wearing a plug bracelet around until you find a doctor. Now, this is what I should have done in the first place. Oh, these are wonderful fish, believe me. Now, you talk about good eating, boy. You got it right there. They're fabulous. Now, that's the outfit I use. You can see it there. A regular bait casting reel and a good bait casting rod. You can get a lot of good action with a bait casting rod that you can get from a soft tip spinning rod. Nice thing about these fast boats and these good motors today, you can go 4, 5, 6, 8 miles and get back in a hurry. I want to show you the way I would say the proper way is to fillet a striper. You got to have a sharp knife. You go down the dorsal fin and cut in as far as you can and start working down. And keep the knife, the blade of the knife, the point of it, close to the rib cage. Stay right on the rib cage. You can't go through it. You just stay on it and you'll have no trouble. You come right down to the belly and work straight through. Now watch, when I working this knife, I'm keeping it close to the backbone. You'll see it stop once in a while. I hit a bone. Just raise it slightly and cut out the end. You leave very little meat on the backbone. I can take a striper like that and dress it on the dining room table and never get it dirty. Keep that knife close to the skin. It slides right along, and every bit of the meat will come off. You do not have any bones in that meat at all. There's a wonderful dinner right there for me. You pan fry that in butter, man, oh man, that's really eating. Norfolk, Virginia and Virginia Beach has a bluefish tournament every year during the month of June. So I thought I'd go down and give it a try. We got about a 30-mile run out to the fishing. Believe me, boy, there's plenty of bluefish around that area during that month. And sometimes they'll start schooling, but they weren't schooling while we were there. We had to go down after these fish. Now what the mate is doing is threading up bait. Now they'll thread up about a dozen of these or more and have them ahead, because sometimes these fish will tear the bait up before you ever hook one. Now these fish will run from about 5 to 12 to 14 pounds up to 16. There were several taken at 16 pounds. It's a good bait and only a single hook. I'm using light saltwater spinning tackle with 15-pound monofilament. The boat's trolling slow, cast out not over 30 to 40 feet back. You can let out as much line as you want to. And the bait will be somewhere around 10 to 12 foot deep. First thing you do is check your drag. You probably see me doing that most every time I go fishing. Be sure the drag is loose enough so the fish will not break the line. And these fish, when they hit savage. And believe me, they hit hard. I'll tell you, you might break a line if you got a strong drag on it. My partner there's a good fisherman, fishing with me. One thing about trolling, you just have to sit and wait until you find the fish. Didn't take long though. My partner hooked the first fish. You'll see that they hit hard and take the bait and tear it all to pieces. He was having a big time telling me about it because he hooked the first one and had him coming. Get him almost there and lost him. Yeah. All of a sudden, I got a strike. If you catch a bluefish that'll run, say, 12 pounds or better, they do give you a flag. The largest fish we caught was about 12 3/4 pounds. There's one thing about a bluefish, if anybody's never fished for them, keep your finger out of that mouth, or anywhere near that mouth of that bluefish. A bluefish that size, right there, you happen to get your finger or thumb close to his mouth or inside where you can hit it, he can chop that thumb off with perfect ease. They call them choppers. And boy, when they get into a school of fish, they go right through them, just chopping as they go. And they got powerful, sharp teeth that'll cut a finger right off. You do the same thing right here, pumping your fish, picking up the slack line, and keep him coming. You can't see it here, but this fish will sometime take a run when you're standing there like that. That fish will maybe run off 25 to 30 or 40 foot of line. And there's nothing to do but just let him go till he gets tired. And if he's big enough, he'll tire you out too. After this tournament gets underway, sometimes you'll see 400 or 500 or maybe close to 1,000 boats out there after those bluefish. And they work right on down the coast towards Cape Cod and that area. It's a nice fish to catch, believe me. Of course, a single hook is easy to get out, but when you're using a plug with treble hooks on to get it down in there, it's quite a problem to get it out. So get out in that country, folk, and try some of that fishing. It's really lots of fun. You don't have to have a boat of that size to do it either. You can take a small boat, say 16, 18-foot boat with an outboard motor and take off and go out there yourself. The only thing is watch the weather. Well, Richie was a good captain, and this is a small canal where he comes back in and anchors his boat. Now that's a plaque that I won. Anybody can win it if you catch one over 12 pounds. This tarpon was caught right off of Virginia Beach, and he is hundreds of miles from where he belongs, way down the tropics. They say a few of them get up there every year, and this man caught one and weighed 100 pounds. It's quite a thing. Now that I've shown you some of my favorite spots in the East, let's head south for some of that good old southern fishing. Okefenokee Swamp. What a wonderful place this is. Down in the southern part of Georgia right now. You know, the Okefenokee will cover nearly all of southern Georgia and laps over into Florida. It's quite a place. I tried to go in there in 1938, but I couldn't get anybody to go in with me. Way back in the old days, the natives thought the place was really haunted. And it was hard to get a native anywhere in there real deep. This chap that's with me is born and raised right around Okefenokee. He knows it pretty well, but none of those boys that's even raised there will get too deep into this country. It's beautiful, wild, and dangerous. Many, many years ago, they tried to drain it so they could get the big cypress out, but they were never able to do it. You have islands in this swamp that cover many acres, that are floating islands with full-grown trees on them. Everything that you could think of in the South is in this swamp. These trails were cut in there many years ago, and they wind around. You get a little farther in, he goes pretty fast with this motor, and boy, what a thrill it is, making these sharp turns like that, and sometimes I wonder if he's going to continue right on up through the timber. But I didn't say anything. I just gritted my teeth and grabbed the hold and hung on. There's all kinds of game in this swamp. Plenty of deer, bear, worlds of alligators, and of course, the snakes. And one thing about Okefenokee, if you go in there fishing, you got to get a permit to go in, and you got to be out by sundown. There's a big old gator right there, man. And the man that don't know the swamp and goes in by himself, why, he doesn't want to leave those trails, try to go back in there, because, brother, you can get turned around and somebody got to start looking for you. And you got plenty of fish in there, plenty of fish. Bass, mudfish, crappie, brim. And what I'm going after right now is mudfish. They call them grinnell or a bowfin, that's the name of them. I'm using a plastic worm to catch these fish. I get right on the bottom and fish very, very slow. I don't know of anybody that's ever made a picture of catching bowfin before. They're wonderful fish. They're no good for eating. I say they're no good for eating, but some people do eat them around the swamp. But boy, they're dynamite. They're wonderful fish. When these bowfins are spawning, they'll get in close to shore and in very, very shallow water. And fishing with a plug, it's dynamite, mister. When you drop a plug in there and he hits it, he really kills it. And he'll just tear a plug all to pieces. Here's a bowfin that weighs around 10 pounds. Now that's a mighty big fish. So if the bass are not biting, get right down on the bottom, folks, and you can catch yourself some bowfin and have a lot of fun, lots of excitement. And don't put your finger in his mouth. If you do, he'll probably give you a little tear because they got some really small, sharp teeth. They say this fish goes way back to prehistoric days. And the dorsal fin on these run the full length of the back, and it's very soft and flexible. It's very easy to find. There's several entrances to come into this swamp. It's controlled by the state and the government. That fish is taken off. You see that? When these fish, either a bass or a bowfin or any of them, picks up a plastic worm, you can feel him pick it up, but let him go. Let him go and count up to about 10 or 12. Then pick up your slack and then hit him. 9 times out of 10, you can hook him. There's millions of birds in the swamp. You can hear noises of all kinds at all times. It's a very fascinating place. I was only using about, I'd say 6-pound test on these fish. Monofilament on a spinning outfit with a plastic worm and a single hook. As you swing around through there on these trails, if you ever do, just take a notice on each side of the number of wild flowers that you can see. And there's plenty of gear. So get down there, folks. Bring the family. There's plenty of places to park and plenty of places for trailers. Go down and enjoy a trip into Okefenokee Swamp. We are on Alamorada Key in southern Florida, going after bonefish. Bonefish, you know, is quite a fish. They write about him, and everybody thinks he's one of the most wonderful fish in the world, and he is. And in fishing for bonefish, you better have a reel that's got a fine drag on it, because these fish are fast and furious. I'm using about a 6-pound test line on these fish. And I got it just that drag just right so it will never catch or drag too tight. Now, are you going to use shrimp? Put it on and break the body off and turn it over and hook it onto the barb of the hook. That's the bait that we're using today for these bonefish. It's about a 2-mile run, I believe, to where we're going. The tide is not high, and you cannot cut across these flats in a boat like this if the tide is low. You got to follow the channels, and that's what we have to do. And you'll notice in going through, you wonder why we're doing the things we're doing, circling around right close to an island, because that's where the channel runs. When the tide begins to fill, gets about half full, on up to high tide, you can cut across these flats. Now, these flats will run for miles upon miles, and they're almost the same depth all the way through. Sometimes you get some of your best fishing when the water is very low. A guy that pulls a boat uses a pole entirely. Now, you don't just sit there and cast wildly for these fish. You generally look for them. Look for feeding or cruising fish. What we're doing right now is looking for cruising fish. And there's one right there. The bait of mine was close, but he did not turn towards my bait at all. They'll give you a thrill, all right. Your bait's lying out there. He picked up my bait right there, and he took off. And mister, when they take off, you better get on the bow of that boat and get up there fast and keep that rod right up in the sky. Because he's running maybe 100 yards without even stopping. And the reason why you do that, on the bottom you'll find millions upon millions of little coral. And if this line gets low enough and this coral touches that line, it's just like a razor, it's gone. It's all over with. And after that run, you start working him back. When he finishes that run, you don't have too much trouble with the bonefish. Now, you notice the guides handling a bonefish. These guys will not kill a bonefish unless you want to bring one in to have it mounted. They're very careful with them, very careful. And we were very lucky, too. We had beautiful weather, just a little wind, not much. And that was good because you can see your fish. Now watch what he does. He'll run that water back through his gill to keep him alive. When he turns him loose, you'll see the fish is still alive now. And when he takes off, no more problems. Pulling along, the water a little bit rough right now, and I had trouble seeing these fish, but the guide could see them. I saw this fish. I dropped my bait out there about 15 foot ahead of it. There's another one. Watch this now. This fish actually takes a bait. He picks it up right there, and boy, did I get up there fast. Whoo-wee, right now. And is he going? You can see the butt of that rod, how it's bent clear over almost down to the reel. And that fish is moving and moving fast.
He's still going. He's still going. Then he made a long run, a real long run. He's still going, believe it or not. Now he stopped. And I start then working, get him back to me as much as I can. Once in a while, when you get one almost back to you, he will make a short run, but not a real long run. First thing he does is careful like is take the hook out before he brings him in. So get down there, Alamorada Key, along the keys anywhere, and get yourself a nice bonefish. There's a fish worth mounting right there. It's a lot of fun, plenty of places to stay, nice warm weather, and lots of excitement. Panama City, Florida, a beautiful old town right on the Gulf of Mexico. Today has some of the finest fishing there is along that entire coast. We left about 3 o'clock that morning as we got about a 50-mile run out to where we're going to take dolphin. It's a beautiful, beautiful morning, it really was. No sign of rain except some thunderheads building up, but they never mounted too much. Beautiful sight. Further out we got the quieter the water got. And that was very lucky for us also. So the mate now is take the skin off of a bonita, about a 5-pound bonita. And he leaves some meat on it, turns around, cuts some of it off, and then scrapes it down, but not all the way to the skin. It leaves some meat on there, has some stiffness in it. And he trims out this bait that he's going to use, which is about 8 to 9 inches long. It's shaping it up now. He cuts it out, and you'll see what shape it looks like shaped like a carrot. He's looking at it sideways. And he uses a single hook on this lure. Fishing a skin like that is a tremendous bait for dolphin. In all my experience in dolphin fishing, that is one of the most successful baits you can ever use. They really hit it. Dr. Vic, government biologist, that's his boat. And he's been working around there for some time, and he found this shelf about 50 miles out. And it's quite a spot. Wonderful spot, even for sailfish. Believe it or not, folks, this was not known until just a few years ago. Today, it's one of the most popular spots there is on the Gulf to fish. You notice he had 4 sinkers on that, because when you troll for dolphin, you're moving right along. I don't know what knots it would be, maybe 4 or 5 knots an hour, but you're really moving along for these fish. Dolphin is very fast, awful fast. Doc will drop the outriggers. We rig up one on each side and set the rods right close to the outriggers. And if one of them hits it, somebody else will grab it and then hand it to me. I'm sitting in the seat there back where it's all the work is. Believe me, when you hook these fish, it's work. It's a lot of fun, but it's work. That's the rigging he has for me now. This is a nice reel, and I got 30-pound test monofilament on this reel. There's my first dolphin. Now these dolphins are pretty good dolphin, believe me. They're running up to 20 to 25 pounds, and 1 or 2 a little better than that. And a dolphin is a very, very fast fish, an awful fast fish. And he'll give you a lot of trouble, believe me. We stopped the boat. The boat is not moving. And this fish went out quite a bit of line. It's way out there. And he did most of his jumping way out, not close in. And I was in hopes I could hook one real close where you could see and do all that jumping, but it's a long ways out there. If you really want to get a thrill of your life sometime, get a real light outfit. Spinning and hook one of these dolphins weigh about 20 pounds. He never quits. He fights right up to the boat, right up to the boat. He never gives up. Just got to work him in close enough for a man to get a hold of the wire leader and pull him in and lift him aboard or gap him. Of course, one this size, you better use a gap. And when you put this fish aboard, he's one of the most beautiful fish in coloring you ever saw in your life. He's perfectly gorgeous. But it only takes a few minutes until he starts to fade. This fish will run close to 20 pounds, 18 to 20 pounds. This is a female dolphin, and you can tell by the shape of the head. It's not as long and not as square. Later on, I'll show you the male dolphin. Then get right back into another. That bait we're using, though, you could hit a sailfish with it. We thought we might hit one, but we didn't. That's what we really wanted when we went out there, is hoping we might hook into a big sailfish. And I've got a lot of friends that's been down there since I was down there, and they tell me that it is really wonderful fishing. This dolphin, though, don't worry, he'll keep you busy. He'll keep you working all the time. I like that chair I'm fishing out of. It's not one of those regular boat chairs made for that purpose. This is a barber chair that he fixed up. Boy, it's wonderful. You just got to keep pumping, pick up every chance you get to pick up that slack, but he's not going to give you any. You got to take it away from him. There he is. I see the head on that fish. See how square it is? Cuts right straight down to his mouth. That's a male dolphin. They call them bull dolphins. That's the original square head. It's a beautiful fish. Look how sharp it is, right straight down. This fathometer that they use on the boat tells you at all times how deep you're fishing. And we found these fish in 60 foot of water. About a half hour before that, we was in about 90 foot of water. We didn't get a thing until we hit the 60 foot mark. It's a great thing. You know exactly where you are at all times in depth. You got quite a harbor down there. You got 2 or 3 of them, and wonderful, wonderful boats. Some of the best guide boats I've ever seen in my life. Now there's the fish that I took. It's wonderful, folks. Get down in good old Panama City, and you can really enjoy yourself. Reelfoot Lake. Reelfoot is located in the northwest part of Tennessee. Now, folks, I want you to look at this boat. The only place in the world you'll ever find this boat is on Reelfoot Lake. It was designed for this lake for one purpose. It has a very heavy keel, tapered at both ends, and the prop is protected by steel. This boat, you can go right over a log or a stump or anything. This lake was formed in 1811 by an earthquake. When this happened, the Mississippi River ran upstream, they say, for 36 hours. It's not a deep lake. It'll average around 6 to 10 to 12 feet, and that's all. And the entire lake, most all of it, is covered with cypress trees, like you see right there. Everywhere you move, there's nothing but beauty all the way through this. And a fabulous lake for bass fishing and brim fishing. To some people, brim is a sunfish. See that oar, how you're working it? You're watching. First fish I caught was a sunfish. He flops in the boat. It's great brim fishing. When the brim are on the beds down there, people from all over the country come down there to catch brim. And they'll run up to a pound or 2 pounds. And when you're going along in this boat, like that open water right there, you head out. You may hit a stump at any time, but it doesn't make any difference. This boat will go right over it. Now that little stuff looks like moss, but it isn't. It's seed from the moss. It was in bloom when we were there, and it will not sink. And it floats up in close to shore when the wind blows and keeps it up there. And sometime it'll pile up as high as 1 to 2 inches thick. And believe it or not, a little later on, it'll just be covered everywhere. When the ducks start to come back from the north, in less than 3 to 4 weeks, they'll clean up every bit of these seeds, every bit of it, just clean as a whistle. When you look at a cypress tree like the one you see right there, they have a tremendous root system, spreading way out all through there, and what a wonderful place for a bass to get under there and hide. When they're biting good, you drop a bug or a plug up next to that root of that tree, you'll always look for a strike. The guide says he wants the fish. Says, I'm going to take a mess of fish home. Well, he sure did. This old gentleman's been on that lake for 60 years, and brother, he sure knows it. I think he knows every cypress tree in the lake. The fishing is excellent in Reelfoot. It really is. It's perfectly marvelous. If you ever go down there and fish, you'll want to come back. And also good crappie fishing in this lake and good sized bass. Like everybody said down there, it's a natural spawning ground. It's almost call it a hatchery. What I'm doing now, dropping a bug up on top of that seed. Now the bug does not go even hit the water. It lays right on top of that seed and just work it along slowly. Don't you ever kid yourself. That bass can see that bug right through that stuff. See how it looks like a mush? That seed is very yellow. Sometimes when you get in there, when there's not much wind and the seed's coming up fast, maybe there'll be an acre of it. Look like wall-to-wall carpeting. I was very lucky, too. The bass were moving pretty good when I was there. All the time we were there, you could hear the wood duck whistle. Whirl the wood duck in there. And a great place for the goshawk, the big hawk. Oh, you see a lot of those. And the water is awfully clear. It's a good clear water. That's one nice thing about it. These few fish that I caught will run up to 2.5 to 3 pounds. As you move around the lake, you'll see lots of duck blinds. And I say this is one of the finest lakes in the South for duck hunting. There's some more of that yellow seeds up there. It seemed that the fish were lying right along the edge of this stuff. Right up in it. Now watch this, you see a strike right in there. There it is, right there. Boy, he really hit that hard and took off. Boy, he really did. He socked it, really socked it. They got him around, come out on this side of that bush, and in the moss he goes. I had an awful time getting him out of that moss. He got down in there, and I had an awful time. I had to pull the boat over, start digging to pull him through that heavy moss. I finally got a hold of his lip. Take a look at this, man. That's what I had a hold of, mister. It's about a 6.5 pound bigmouth bass. What a beauty. That's the reason why he hit it so doggone hard. He come right up through that seed and hit that thing. That's a popping bug size 1/0. Now that's the type of fish you can catch in this lake. You know, this is a great place for family fishing. You got some wonderful places to stay. You got a great big playground. The state has put a big playground in there for children. So get down to Reelfoot Lake. Bring the family down and enjoy some good brim fishing, bass fishing. It's a wonderful place to go. You won't forget it. We sure had some real fishing down south here, boy. So we're headed north now for the wide open plains of the Midwest. We are now in Spooner, Wisconsin, about 60 miles south of Superior. Surrounded by a lot of lakes, good fishing, and Yellow River, which runs right through this town. And I stopped at the Yellow River Sporting Goods store to pick up Bob Davenport, who's going to handle a boat for me. Bob's not only a good canoeman, but a good fisherman. I always wanted to fish Yellow River, so here's my chance. I've never been out in the swamp before, but there's a lot of bass in there, and lots of northern pike. What you're looking at across there is wild rice. Oh, there's lots of wild rice, and the Indians are the only people who can gather this rice, and that's a Chippewa Indian. I'm going to use a fly rod with a popping bug. And I never had a man who could handle a canoe any smoother and keep it in one place and keep it at the right place, too, at all times, than Bob Davenport. I had a strike there, first one I had. And it wasn't a bass, it was a small northern. Watch this thing and you'll almost jump into the boat. He come darn near coming in the boat. Now watch how quickly I get him out of there. I get hold of the line, swing him in for this reason. He's got that bug right down in his throat. If a tooth touches that monofilament line, it's gone. He takes the bug with him. And I paid 75 cents for that bug, and he doesn't need it. There's a lot of moss beds in this water, some of it close to the surface, and a lot of it 2 to 3 feet under the water. With a hooked fish, and he dives into that moss, you have to go get him. We're just moving through a little stretch over to the other run. I see a lot of wood ducks flying around. You can hear them whistling. It's a lot of fun to listen to them. And I find that the average depth of this water will run from about 4 to 6 foot deep. And in some sections, there's some smallmouth bass. But 90% of them were bigmouth bass. We just went through a big moss bed. You can see it right there. In this run now, I caught 3 or 4 nice fish. Beautiful in there. Now I switched over to a push-button rod using an underwater bait, which will work both underwater and on the surface, with about a 6-pound test monofilament line. The strange thing about this body of water, Bob told me, is that very few people fish it. I don't know why, because it's good fishing and a lot of fish in there. Even with the wind blowing most any direction, you generally can get out of the wind if it's a high wind. We had a pretty good breeze, but it wasn't bothering us at all. Oh, these fish are really beautiful. I didn't expect them to be like that, but they were bright and shiny, and the bellies of them are almost pure white. And a healthy, healthy looking fish. And one thing I did find out, there's no pollution in this water, which is very good. That bait's got small treble hooks on it, and boy, they really hit a fish and they hold them, and are they tough to get out. Look at how clean that fish looks. Isn't that beautiful? They got plenty of food because they're all nice and fat. That's the lure. Can fish both surface and underwater. You can see some moss hanging on those hooks. I don't know why, I'm always so happy when I catch a fish. Bob says we're going to move up quite a ways now, and boy, what a beautiful, beautiful stretch of water through here. He said if we fished there, we might get a hold of a big northern, which I was not interested in with the tackle I had. And I started popping the bug through here. And I got a big surprise. Nice fish in here. See how slow I popped that bug. And right in here, he hit it right there. Now watch that rod and that line, how I'm trying to keep him out of that moss bed on the right. If he gets up in there, no good. And I had to force him. I had to force him a little bit to keep him out because that's where he was headed. These are nice fish. It's a fly fisherman's paradise through here. Just drop a bug in there and pop it slowly, and you got action. Because I didn't catch any real big ones. I think the largest fish I caught will run somewhere around 3.5 to 4 pounds. There's a single hook on that bug, and look how solid it's hooked in there. You hold him by the mouth. You're not hurting that fish a bit. You don't squeeze him. Don't get near his gills. And if he's not even hurt, he doesn't know what's going on. So folks, get up around Wisconsin, up around Spooner, and bring a fly rod with you with popping bugs.
It's marvelous fishing, and you'll enjoy it. I think I had one of the best days bass fishing I've had in a long time.
I had a nice flight from Denver, all the way to Creede. Of course, I had to fly around a couple of rain showers, but it didn't bother me. This is what they call the Upper Rio Grande River, just this side of the Continental Divide. I'm landing in Creede now on a 4,000-foot narrow strip. And boy, it's beautiful country to fly over. Gee, isn't that wonderful? I still get a big kick out of flying. I sure love it. Well, a friend of mine met me, took me up to what they call Wagon Wheel Gap, where we stayed. This town of Creede is an old western town. There was over 10,000 people right in this area, where they had copper and gold mines. And this town has not changed very much. There's the main street. You still have the old opera house, a lot of the old saloons, and the old railroad station, still intact. But it's a tourist attraction now, no mining at all. I don't think there is. We drove about 5 miles from Creede up on the Rio Grande, and you have 138 miles of good trout fishing. And on this stream, the state has set aside from 1 to 2 miles of strictly fly fishing only, and it's well marked. And the state does a marvelous job of stocking this river, a wonderful job. And everybody that gets in there does catch fish, and they all seem to enjoy themselves. Now, we are fishing about 35 miles from the headwaters of the Rio Grande. Good clear water, good clean water. And as you know, clean water today across the United States is getting to be hard to find. Pollution is a bad word for me. I'm fishing what they call a woolly worm, a black woolly worm, on a number 8 hook. And it was very, very effective. I'm using a sinking line, fishing upstream, letting it drift down. There's some browns in there, quite a few browns, but mostly rainbows. And the fish will average from about 12 inches to 16 inches. And that's good fish for this country, beautiful fish. You can see that water's pretty fast. And where I'm standing, it's deep enough for a trout to weigh 10 pounds, as far as that's concerned. I've had quite a few fishermen on this stream. No matter where you stop, you can catch a few fish. And on this entire stretch of river, there's very little of it that's posted by ranchers. And most of them, if you go see them and talk to them, they will let you fish. A lot of people talk about wetting your hands. If you wet your hands, it makes it slippery, and you've got to squeeze the trout tight to hold it. But if your hands are dry, you don't have to squeeze too tight. As long as you don't squeeze them tight, you'll never injure that fish. Dry hands does not bother the fish. Just keep your fingers and hands away from the gills. You get in those gills, the fish will not live. Henry, my friend, caught a couple, three nice fish on spinning tackle. But long, late in the evening, you can always catch your limit in trout. We save 5 or 6 of these trout for supper. Always marvelous. It's rugged country, and it's high, and no matter what direction you look, it's always a picture. I'm wading very carefully right there. I don't have my wading staff with me. If you fishermen wanted to try felt sole waders, you better try them sometime, because on felt sole waders you won't slip on slippery rocks. And if you don't use them, some of these rocks will turn and you'll take a dive in that cold water, man, and that water's really cold. You'd be surprised how wide this river is, this Rio Grande. It's not a real small river. It's a good wide river and a good fast river. Take a hold of the hook. Shake the trout, he'll drop off. He doesn't even know what happened. Boy, that big old black cloud rolling in. And it looks like trouble, so I think we'd better get out of here. But when it rains up in this country, boy, it really rains. We did all right. By the time we got in there and got about halfway out to the main highway, it started to rain and rain hard. So this is tremendous fishing, folks. Try the Rio Grande River sometime. You will enjoy it. You are looking at the towering Grand Tetons in Jackson Hole country. We're up there to fish Pacific Creek. Now, I've never been on one of these things before in my life. And I had a little trouble for the first 200 yards, but then I began to get used to it. And I'll say one thing. Boy, it beats walking up those hills. When Jim told me, he says, Gad, he says, we're going to fish Pacific Creek. He says, it's not a big stream, so I had an idea. The word creek would be something like the streams you find in the Middle West in some parts of the country, which is very small streams. When I saw this creek, I was quite surprised. It was really a good-sized river. And very fast, clear, and very cold water. There it is. Boy, what a beautiful, beautiful stream. Now, what we're going to catch here is cutthroats. Now, here's what we're going to use. I'm not going to use flies at all. I'm going to use grasshoppers. And I haven't fished a grasshopper myself in 20 years. So you'll see we're not making any casts at all. We just simply got the grasshopper on there, let him work ahead in the current. Every time I got that grasshopper up under that bank, I picked up a fish. And it's a lot of fun. These cutthroats are quite a fish. I didn't use a net at all on these fish. beautifully colored. The mark is just perfect on them. There's Floyd, a very good friend of mine and a doggone good fisherman. And if he hasn't got that cigar, he can't fish. He hadn't had a bite. He'll get one in a minute. Floyd had quite a handicap. He's fishing right underneath that old tree, and he got hung up in it once. This water is terribly cold. There's a lot of snow water still coming down from the mountain, from the stream. It's awfully cold. When you pick up that fish out of that water, it's just like getting a hold of a bunch of ice. Floyd finally got a hold of one, and he lost him. But boy, he's a good fisherman. He caught a lot of fish that day. Like most of these fellows that live in that country, after you fish a while and catch 3 or 4 fish, you say, well, let's move on, go on up the stream. The river makes quite a few bends, and there's lots of deep holes. And the flow of water will circulate around in there, and if you can get a grasshopper underneath those big brush piles, chances are you'll get a fish every time you get under there. And that's what I did. The first cast that I made, and drifted that grasshopper under that brush, I got a good fish. And Jim told me that some fish in there weigh 5 to 6 pounds, and I didn't get one. I wish I had it, but I didn't. I get this fish in there, I got it down low to slide him up over those rocks where the water is. And just as I reached for him, he flopped loose and got away from me. There he goes. And I reached and I grabbed, and I never did touch him at all, and he got away from me. Well, that's fishing, you know. And there's plenty more good ones in that pool, believe it or not. So I'm going to get myself a real good-looking grasshopper. There he is. I'm going to hook him right above that little shell. The point of the hook comes out the roll. Now, if I can get that up in there and float it underneath that log pile, I'll gamble that I'll get a fish. It went under there all right there. I thought sure that I'd get hung up, but I did not. Only into 3 or 4 nice fish. Sometimes the current will swing it out, and sometimes it'll swing it in. And you got to take that chance of getting it underneath that brush. I'm using a sinking line, so I don't have any trouble getting it down. And I finally hooked him. And these are nice fish, beautiful fish. That's the kind of fishing I always dream about. Isn't that a gorgeous looking thing? Just back of the gill cover, they got an orange stripe right down there. That's why they call them the fish they are.
Jim said save these fish. We're going to have a big fish Friday night. So I saved what I caught here and what Floyd caught. Brother, we had a real feed. Look at that. Isn't that a gorgeous bunch of fish?
Time's a wasting. Let's head for the cow country, way out west. Lake Powell, Page, Arizona, known as a jewel of the Colorado River. There you're looking at Rainbow Bridge. Boy, what a beautiful place. Glen Canyon Dam, boy, what a gorgeous operation. You talk about power, they really have it there. We head up Lake Powell, I would say 45 miles. I'm only guessing at this. And we're going bass fishing. When you're going down through these canyons, anywhere you want to go, it doesn't make any difference. I don't believe there's an artist in the world could ever put the colors that you see on canvas. It'd be almost impossible. Sometimes you think you're looking at a castle from these rocks. Now, it doesn't make much difference just where you go in this lake. It's 138 miles long. You have bass and trout fishing, and it's fabulous fishing. I would say that some of the finest fishing in the country is in Lake Powell. And they have plenty of food in that lake, and these fish are growing and growing fast. And I understand when they first stocked it, they put 11 million trout and bass in this lake. We try to find the ledges where the ground will taper out, then drop to a straight ledge, and you'll find these bass along the ledges. And we didn't have any trouble catching fish. It was a lot of fun. Lake Powell has 1,800 miles of shoreline. It would take a long time to fish it. There's plenty of room for everyone. One thing I like about fishing at Lake Powell, you have so many canyons, little runs that run back in there, sometimes maybe 1,000 yards, 200 feet, even better than a half a mile. We've picked up some bass around 2 to 3.5 pounds. But Floyd Domney tells me that it's no trouble at all to take 5 and 6 pound bass out of Lake Powell. And I have some friends who've been there and caught the fish when they're biting. Those are really nice fish. Of course, you have a lot of wind in that country, but one thing about all these canyons, you can always get out of the wind. Now that's a little run that goes up in there, I would say about 300 or 400 yards. You find a place like that and you won't have any trouble catching bass. my own lures. Kept changing just to see what would happen. Didn't make any difference what I used. I caught fish. Those bass are nice and clean and healthy looking. Floyd was catching one and I'd catch one. We'd just average about the same. Sometimes he'd get a couple fish ahead of me, then I'd catch up with him. I understand that Lake Powell will hold back 4 straight years of spring runoff. Boy, that is something when it will do that. That was about the average size. If you want to go slowly along, just keep looking. You'll see so many markings along there that it looks like somebody had gone up there with a chisel and chiseled out all those beautiful markings. But the wind and the rain, they did all this himself. Nature did it all. It's a trip that you would never forget. First night we was there, we had rain. Spent the night on the shore sleeping in sleeping bags. We had to cook on the shore. We didn't have a tent or a thing. Believe me, boy, the nights are really cold. But you don't get all the comforts of life sometimes when fishing. But when you got excellent fishing like that, it doesn't make any difference whether it's raining or cold. It's wonderful. There's plenty of places along there where you can find a nice flat spot where you can camp if you want to. And a lot of people today are camping along the shores of Lake Powell all the way through. Page is not a very large place, but it's a very comfortable place. Has some wonderful motels and a good airport. If you like good fishing and beautiful scenery and big country, come to Lake Powell and have a lot of fun. Flaming Gorge, Utah. What a beautiful lake, nestled deep in the Rockies. The guide said, Gad, I'm going to take you around to a good creek where we can catch some nice rainbow trout. This is a good lake and a big lake and one of the hottest fishing lakes in the Rockies today. He said it's about a 6-mile run to this creek, and we got to pass this famous rock called Flaming Gorge. When the sun is shining, it's a beautiful sight to behold. But we were not lucky enough to have sunshine on this day. The fact is, we had a little snowstorm the day before. And this is on the opening day of the elk season. How do you like to give that rock a little push? It's quite a crash. We finally landed up there and walked up this creek, and I went up about 200 yards. What a beautiful creek. And I got quite a surprise for myself. Using a fly rod, small flies, and I started right at the end of this rip. When I started catching fish, it was really exciting. And the guide was right. Boy, but fishing. Now, I'm using a sinking line on this, fast water. an HDH sinking line, and it swings around and gets down just about the right depth. There's the first strike. That's the first strike I had, too. The man is with me, and Andy told me, he said, Gad, we're going to save these fish. We got about 7 or 8 boys up the shack that we're going to have a little fish fry tonight. So I says, okay with me. You know, I believe if I'd have stayed on that rock, I could have caught 2 or 3 limits if I wanted to. And these fish were running somewhere around, I would say, 13 to 17 inches. Now, that's good fishing. See that jacket I got on there? Believe it or not, folks, it was cold. 2 days after we left there, the temperature got back to 65 and 70, even during the elk season. That fish looked like he wanted to stay on top of that rock. Cast the fly upstream and let it sink toward you. And every time it got down low enough, I was into a fish. Now, how do you like that kind of fishing? For you fishermen who really like to fish, boy, you better get out in that country and try it, because it's wonderful. By catching these fish like this, I sit down several times and change flies purposely to see what would happen. And it didn't seem to make any difference what fly you put on. You'd catch a fish. If you ever go up in that country, I think that about the closest spot you can get to it where there's good accommodations would be Vernal, which is 45 miles away. Then at Flaming Gorge, there's a little place called Dutch John. You can get accommodations there. But there's plenty of room for campers, plenty of room. And the fishing is easy to get to. You can see me pick that fish up, see him hit. Andy told me, he said, if the weather was warm, Gad, he says, at the mouth of this stream, you would find at least a dozen boats out there with men, women, and children in it, and all catching fish. But we didn't see a boat there at all. We were the only one that was there. You can see me smile there, boy. Look at that. Isn't that a beautiful trout? I caught my limit all right, and boy, those trout were heavy, and we ate every bit of those fish. They were marvelous. It's a racy looking fish. We had to have a fire. That's how cold. My hands were really frozen, just as stiff as it was so cold. We built a fire to warm up a little bit. And I hope you don't have to build a fire like I did. I'd like to see some of you fishermen try the Flaming Gorge Lake and some of those streams. You won't regret it. This is the old Waco, Washington, located at the mouth of the Columbia River. Boy, quite a bay they have there, and hundreds of boats. We stopped to ask for a guide. He told us that he's down to the boat waiting for us. And this old gentleman that's going to guide us has been on this bay for about 60 years. And he sure knew what he was doing and where he was going. Now we're going to fish for coho, or silver salmon, and they just started to come in. We had a good boat. It wasn't fast but slow, because you troll slow, and most of the time you'll drift with the wind or with the tide. It's about, I would say, a good hour's run out to where we want to start fishing. The tide is low when we went out. That was good for us. We had hit the timing just right. We're using anchovies and some herring. Take a whole anchovy, use 2 hooks, a tail hook and a dropper, as we call it. We place the tail hook where you want it, slide the other hook down and hook it through the eye or through the head. And you can slide this hook up and down the leader and put any shape that you want in this anchovy. I'll show you in just a second. You can make it spin slow, or you can make it spin fast. Or you can leave it absolutely straight and troll it straight. You see, just grab a hold of the eye of the hook and pull the leader, and it draws it down. You see the anchovy move in. See the shape of it now. Shape like that, it will spin very fast. If you want it to spin slowly, just loosen up the top hook. But this is not really trolling a big lure. You generally do drifting more than you do moving the boat. If you have to head into the wind, naturally you will have to move the boat slowly. You get down close to the bottom of these using medium weight saltwater tackle. I was using about 10-pound test line on these fish. There are times when you can actually bounce the bait along the bottom and pick up good fish. They hit more, and they really hit hard. When these salmon move up into fresh water, way up, boy, they're excellent fish for fly fishing. Now, they don't do much jumping when you're fishing like this. That's one thing I don't like about it. I'd like to see these salmon really go in the air. But they put up a hard fight. They're nice fish, so, boy, they're a lot of fun to catch. And when the season gets in full swing, man, you can see just everybody catching fish. And believe me, in the last 3 or 4 years, they've had some fabulous coho runs. That fish will weigh about, I'd say about 10 pounds. Now, there's something, boy, when you bake him, you really got yourself some good food. We were very lucky, though. We had a wonderful day. Wasn't cold, very little wind, and everybody catching fish. Now, the old man on the right is our guide. He's an old-timer. And he still uses a great big heavy saltwater reel and a heavy line. He'll never change. Look at that salmon. Boy, does he dart around there fast and furious. It looks like it's very rough there, but it isn't. Not as rough as you think it is. But you get used to the rock of the boat and rock right with it. We didn't have any problem. We weren't out there too long, and everybody was into fish most all the time. There's one thing you can do if you get your limit in salmon. You can have them canned and take them home with you. And that's what I did. How'd you like to have that on a nice light fly rod? Oh, wait, wouldn't that be something? Well, I don't believe I've had a faster or better day coho fishing than I did that day right there. But all these gulls around, when they come back in, most everybody who has bait left has a lot of fun pitching them up, let the gulls dive and pick them up. Now that first one I touched there is ready to spawn. You can tell by his nose. There's a nice bunch of fish for about 2 hours of fishing. And I'll say this, folks, if you want to enjoy yourself, get out in the state of Washington, out to Milwaukee, and try that coho fishing. It's a lot of fun. Smile, boy. You'll never get a better one. Here we are in San Diego, California. And believe me, this is a wonderful spot, San Diego, to fish for albacore. They have an awful good bay and lots of boats available for albacore or bonita. It's quite a bait dock. We put about half a bushel of anchovies in the well. And you need that much bait when you go out after albacore. Isn't that a bunch of nice bait, though? I know one thing, we have a good boat. I was told about that. It's a good wide boat, too, and the freeboard is not too high. It's easy to fish from. It's not a very far run out after these fish. I would say it's about an hour and a half to where we're going. When we get out, we start trolling using feather jigs. We rig up 2 lines with a feather jig, one white and one black, and keep trolling until we hit an albacore. But when you hit an albacore, you stop the boat and start throwing out chum. That's the bait that we picked up. And these fish start picking up this bait real fast and furious. If you're lucky, you probably could be sitting right on top of a tremendous school of albacore. And that's just exactly what happened to us. Boy, the first time we hit an albacore, we were in business. I don't know what the name of this place is, but they told me at one time was a gambling casino. Beautiful ride out there. We were there in the latter part of July, and they say these fish start moving in about the middle of July. Of course, this is the first time I've ever fished albacore at this area. Here, boy, one of them has hit the jig. Larry Lawrence, a good friend of mine from Los Angeles, got a hold of that rod. Worked him in, and here I am. I'm throwing out now anchovies. Start throwing them out. You can't see it here, but boy, I saw 3 or 4 of them swing up and pick up this bait. So everybody else is already baiting up, but they won't go in there until he gets that albacore in. Boy, this is a lot of fun, these albacore, and they're dynamite. They're really fast. My rod's all baited up, ready to go as soon as I gaff this fish. You'll notice that all the rods we're using are medium saltwater rods with about 20-pound test line. Some of them 15-pound test. There he is. That's what you call chicken of the sea. Now everybody's in there and everybody's into a fish. Sometimes you really get messed up and tangled up out there with 2 or 3 fish on, but we didn't have that trouble at all that afternoon. I'm using a spinning rod myself, a spinning reel. A couple of them have regular conventional tackle. Oop, that's my fish you lost, boy. That's the first one I got, and they had to lose him and gaffing him. It isn't very often you'll go out like this and sit down on the top of a school of fish and don't even have to move. Several boats around us now, they generally move in when you do get on a school of fish, but it doesn't bother anything at all. Sometimes you're drifting with the tide or drifting with the wind, and we'll drift away from school. But fortunately, we was either following the school or they were following us. I don't know, but we never left them. These fish are running up to 10 to 16, 18 pounds. Larry's having a big time. Boy, he really caught a lot of fish. Every time you throw it out there, he's into one. Well, I don't believe there's anybody in the world that had any more fun than I did fishing for albacore. We didn't stay out there too long. We had all the fish we want. I saved all my fish and had them canned. And I ended up with over 400 cans of albacore. Boy, they were delicious. And I'll say this, folks, if you want to have some fun, go down to San Diego. You'll have the time of your life fishing for albacore. And there's plenty of boats available, and I know you will enjoy it.